So one of the 6 effective strategies is spaced practice. So what you want to do is you want to space your studying out over time instead of cramming. Here's the problem with cramming is many people do it, and what we tend to do, and we do this with a lot of things in our life, is we selectively remember the 1 or 2 things that we remembered on the test because we crammed the study hall before. What we don't remember is the 25 things that we forgot because we crammed instead of doing space retrieval. So again, like this says, if you take 5 hours of studying, you can either do it the night before the test or you can spread it out over a week or two. Spreading it out, spaced practice, is by far the most effective way to remember things. Taking a little bit of time every single day to go back over the past lesson is extremely effective. One of the suggestions is to take a break after the lesson, review it later on if you have a study hall later that day. Just flip through your class notes from the day, the night when you get home. 5-10 minutes. Just flip through what you looked at, and that will help bring that back and it'll help you remember it better. The other thing about reviewing information from the most recent class, every once in a while go back a week, a month, the beginning of the quarter. If you do that a couple times a week, your semester test scores are going to greatly improve. It's because that information is being constantly refreshed, and then what you're going to do is you're going to cut down on that forgetting curve. Each of these things has a hold on section where it gives you some very important tips to make sure that this works, so that you don't waste your time. So when you sit down, don't just reread your class notes. Don't just reread the chapter. You got to make sure that you're using some of these other effective strategies to make this the most effective. So the second thing is retrieval practice. Bring information to mind. So one of the things about memory and learning is you got to think of your brain as a filing cabinet. When we get new information, we decide when we're working with it where it fits, where it goes. And then what our brain has to do is it has to file it in our filing cabinet. When it comes time for a test, what you have to do is you have to bring that back out of your filing cabinet. By having retrieval practice, what you're doing is you're helping your brain learn how to get things in and out of, which is what you have to do usually on test days. So when you get home at night and you're going to go review with your space practice, put away your materials and try and write out and sketch out as many things as you can remember from that day's lesson. Be as thorough and as specific as possible. Once you're done with that, go back, check through and see how accurate was I? Did I miss some important points? Was there something in there that I didn't remember that the teacher said was extremely important? And then you really need to make sure that you kind of go back through that. Practice tests are an excellent way to retrieve information. So if you can't find them, there's Quizlets and all kinds of other things. Like, for example, they use flashcards. Go beyond just the small, minute details of definitions. Be thinking of links between ideas. Organize this. Set it up. How do these things flow together? How are they interrelated? Make practice tests. Trade with friends of yours in class. Quiz each other back and forth. This is really going to help. When you look at the hold on, it works best when you check your class materials for accuracy afterwards. You don't want to retrieve poorly formed ideas or incomplete ideas. It's hard. This is something that we really struggle with. If you've ever tried to remember something, if you walked into a room to get something and then your mind goes blank, it's hard to recall what it was that you're looking for. So work on practicing this. Make yourself better at this. And again, don't recall just words and definitions. Main ideas, how things are related, how things are different from each other. Come up with new examples to tie this information all together. And then once you link that, the retrieval will be much easier. All right, next up is interleaving. What you want to do is you want to switch between ideas while you study. So how to do it? Switch between different ideas. Don't study one idea for too long, especially when you're trying to learn steps of things or orders of things. One of the things that research shows is our brains are best at remembering things at the beginning of the list and at the end of the list, and we struggle most with the things in the middle of the list. And so that's why it's important when you go to this next step, go back over ideas, but put them in different orders. And what that will do is that will help you remember the things that were in the middle, help you understand those things a little bit better, make it less likely that you're going to forget the middle. So do that. Again, make links between different ideas as you switch through them. Those links, that encoding, is really key to helping your memory form. The other thing it is, when you interlink things, when you interleave them, what you do is you tie them all together, and it makes it so your memory traces, it's easier for those synapses to form and strengthen, and it's easier to retrieve it. Be careful not to switch too often. Be careful not to spend too little time on any one idea, and you got to make sure you really understand them. It's going to feel harder at first, but in the end, it's really going to pay off, because now you're going to be able to, regardless of how things show up, you're going to be able to deal with them in any order. You're going to know the middle as well as you know the beginnings and the ends. Next up, elaboration, how to do it. When you're going through things, you should really be asking yourself questions. Do I agree with this? Do I disagree with this? Do I like this? Do I not like this? Does this seem to make sense to me, or is there something missing? And then while you're going through those things, that's going to make you engage a little bit more in the material. When you elaborate, it's also going to help you make connections between different ideas. How is this thing similar to what I already know? How is this different from other things that I've learned in the past? When you describe ideas and apply them to your own experiences and memories, that really makes a huge difference. And that's why it's so important that when you do this, you talk in ways that you talk, however that might be. Connect new learning to things that you're passionate about, to things that you like, to things that you enjoy, because it's more likely you're going to remember that. Again, make sure the way that you're describing is accurate. Don't overextend. So in other words, don't try and make connections where they don't exist. The other thing too is work up new ways that you can describe and explain things without looking at class materials. So if you can do that without looking back at anything, and you can tell a story about it or describe it, that means you really know it, you really get it, you really understand it. In dual coding, what you're doing is you're combining words and visuals. One of the things to keep in mind is that at humans, our visual has been around a lot longer than our verbal. So most humans are very visual learners. Not all, but for the vast majority of us, visuals really help us understand things better than verbal or words can. And so what you really want to try and do is you want to try and connect visual cues to verbal cues and vice versa. So when you look at visuals in the book, explaining your own words, what you're seeing and what they mean. When you are looking at words, take them and see if there's a way to draw a visual to go along with it. So a lot of textbooks have a lot of these built into them. And so especially in the history textbooks, when you get to the beginning of every section, in the bottom left-hand corner, they usually have some kind of a clue or cue for you to use. But infographics, timelines, diagrams, graphic organizers, even drawing cartoons or cartoon strips or visuals, those things really help you remember. When you can marry the words and the visuals together, you're going to use more parts of your brain. You're going to build more synapses between the different parts of your brain, and it's going to be easier to remember. If you can draw what you know from memory, again, what that shows is you got it, you know it, and you're really prepared for what's to come. The last strategy I'm going to go through is learning how to use concrete examples, specific examples to understand abstract ideas. So when I'm going through examples in class, when I'm going through examples in my lecture, when you go through your materials, your textbook, you look for things online, find as many examples as you possibly can to put into your folder, your memory, or wherever for later on. Once you get those examples, try and make as many links between those ideas as you can so you can understand how those examples apply to the idea. Not just, make sure you think long and hard. Does this apply? Does it fit? Do I understand how it fits and how it ties? Share examples with friends and have them share back and forth, because what's going to happen is you're going to build your pool of examples, and that will help you better understand and grasp this abstract idea. Make sure you're careful, especially on the internet. There's times that people put things up there that are maybe incorrect. They make sense maybe to that individual person, but it's hard for you to see how that connects to other things. And the bottom line is, if you can create your own relevant examples, that's going to be the most helpful for learning. So when you're able to sit there, take some of the examples, compare it to what you already know, what you already understand, and then if you can tie your ideas to this new idea, that's what's going to help you the most. So one of the things I often hear students say, and here are the six strategies for effective learning that I just went through, is they say, I tried it, it didn't work. That's not how I learn. That's not how I remember things. And one of the things I'd like to remind everybody is, learning and trying new things, especially in terms of learning and memory and study skills, are just like anything else in life. So if, for example, your coach comes to you and gives you a new play and you run through it once and you say, Coach, that play didn't work. I don't think we should do it anymore. I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to run that play anymore. Or if you're in the musical and the play and you go through the first time that you practice your lines and the first time you practice your song and you screw up and it doesn't go the way that you wanted to go, you say, well, I don't think we should do this song or play this play anymore. I think what we need to do is we need to start all over and let's do something that we've done before that's maybe not very good, but at least I already know how to do it. And that's the real problem here. These things take time to learn how to do. These things take practice. And they're things that you aren't going to get good at in 1 week. They're not things that you're going to get good at in 1 quarter. These are things that you're going to get good at over time because you practice them. You make mistakes. You learn which parts of these things work. You learn which ways you did them wrong, and then you find new and better ways to do it. So keep that in mind. This isn't something that, I'm going to implement it today, and tomorrow I'm going to get much better grades. It just doesn't work that way. So stick with it. Learn, read, explore. Pick just one of these things at a time and get really good at it. Don't try and do all of them at once. Pick the thing that you think you are best at from these 6 and get even better at it. And then work on your weaknesses later. One of the things to keep in mind in life is it's a lot easier to get to 100% from 80% than it is from 20. So play to your strength. If your 80% strength is dual coding, drawing pictures, do that. Get even better at dual coding, because you're going to see a bigger bang for your buck early on. And then if there's other things that maybe you're not as good at, perhaps you're not as disciplined enough to do spaced practice, just try and do little bits of spaced practice and then try and add more as you go. So keep that in mind. Don't just give up because the first time you try it, it didn't go the way that you expected. You should expect that it's not going to go the way that you wanted to right away. That's just normal. That's part of life. That's part of growing. That's part of expanding. That's part of getting better, is when we're starting a new skill, it takes a while. And then we have a really fast learning curve. That's the way things work. So again, stick with it, and you will get better, and you will see an improvement over time.